Hey guys, Roman and Weaver here, just back with a quick little review. So I just got done watching Emancipation on Apple TV Plus. This is the latest film from Antoine Fuqua, the director of films like Training Day, The Equalizer, Magnificent Seven remake. This is an interesting one for very, very obvious reasons. This is the first film starring Will Smith post Oscar win, and it also bears the weight of, you know, the whole media nightmare that was the slap heard around the world.
Oh, wow! Wow! Will Smith just smacked the shit out of me.
So right off the bat, you know, there's the whole image of the film is pretty much dogged by Will Smith's own actions. But does the film rise above that to create another hit for Will Smith? Let's find out. So, Emancipation follows Peter, a slave who is sent to a Confederate camp to build railway tracks. And while he's there, he learns that Abraham Lincoln has, put in a proclamation to allow the slaves to be freed. And from there, Peter decides to fight for his freedom, and he forges a treacherous journey through the Louisiana swamps to get back to his family, a Union camp. Meanwhile, hot on his heel is Jim Fassel, a brutal slave hunter. So, the story behind this film right off the bat is kind of interesting, because this is inspired, well, I say inspired, this is sort of suggested by the story of Whipped Peter, a slave who, is best known for a photograph of his horribly scarred back, which went around the world and became a rallying cry against slavery, which is something that the little text ending at the end of the film tells us. But not really much is known about Whipped Peter's life story, so the film kind of has to fill in the gaps, from the hip, basically, and that kind of shows, because while the whole hook of the film is pretty interesting, and scenes of seeing the desperate measures Peter takes in his treacherous journey through the Louisiana swamps, like we see him fight an alligator. He wins, obviously, and we see him smearing himself in mud and onion juice to cover his scent. There's a potentially really interesting tale of one man's fight for his freedom. Unfortunately, the film around that is not very complex. It takes very much every slavery movie sort of cliche and runs with it. I will admit, I found the opening 10 minutes or so sort of quite compelling, but even then, it does sort of feature the usual brand of slavery movie sort of misery porn, sort of wallowing in brutal imagery. And that's not to say that it's badly done or anything. I'll get to that later, but you can't really help but feel like you've seen it all before. It also doesn't help that, as I said, it's not very complex. So the narrative and character development is like paper thin. Like the good and evil are painted in like the broadest strokes. Like on the one hand we have Peter. He's a good, noble family man. He's also he's a God fearing man. And he's also I will admit, that I like that they fleshed him out. He's incredibly resourceful and able to adapt to the treacherous situation he goes through. And there's even like a little, you sort of throwaway line saying that Peter has survived much worse than this in the past. So there's a pretty cool touch to his character. Like, really, it's the broad strokes of the bad guy characters that are painted so thin. The evils, like Confederate slavers, are their usual sort of like they're brutal, and they're hurling out the vilest insults, and they're constantly using racial slurs. Yeah, top tier, complex, morally grey characterization. Sort of the embodiment of this of the bad guy side of things is slave hunter Jim Fassel, who is played in the film by Ben Foster. I will admit the acting here is rather good. Will Smith as Peter. Yeah, you can slap my face and call me Chris, because he really shows here why he deserved that Oscar win for King Richard. He is really, really good here. He goes for a more quiet, sort of understated, like unshowy kind of performance with like moments of showy and explosive emotion, allowing them to seep their way in occasionally. He's incredible, and I will admit he sort of makes the whole thing much more interesting to watch. Of course, we also have, as I said, we've got Ben Foster as Jim Fassel, and he is good. He is this sort of overplayed, vile, hateful, brutal slave hunter. But Ben Foster does play it well, so perfectly so in this sort of fury and hatred. And he has this very interesting backstory as well in relation to a black housemaid when he was a child, and does add like at least somewhat layers to his character, but not much. And we also have a very sort of good subtle performance from Charmaine Bingwa as Peter's wife, Dodane, and yeah, she's good, very subtle, understated. I believe in the end credits, there's a sort of title card saying "introducing" next to her name. So if this is her like debut acting performance, she did a really good one here. Now, as I said earlier, despite all the the miserablest, like wallowing in brutality imagery, it's captured very, very well. Like it's incredibly well shot. That there's some stunning shots here, particularly like drone shots of the Louisiana swamp. And I will admit the color palette choice for this film was pretty interesting as well. Like, it goes for a sort of more like desaturated, almost to the point of black and white. In fact, some scenes do look like they're straight up black and white, and there's the occasional scene where like a bit of a bit more color sort of bleeds its way through. There were sort of moments where the sort of like desaturated color palette is sort of used kind of inconsistently, but for the most part, it does look good. Although on the VFX department, there is some horrendous looking fake CGI fire. It's awful, so cheap looking. And yeah, that's all I've really got to say about Emancipation. It's a story with with obviously very noble intentions and an inkling of a really interesting idea, and it has got good performances, and it's a very well made film. But all in all, it really just feels like been there, done that in regards to films about slavery. I don't think this is gonna be put up for any awards, despite the fact that that's obviously the intent. I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10. So yeah, let me know down in the comments. Have you seen Emancipation? What did you think of it? Do you think Will Smith will be getting another Oscar nomination for his role in this? Because I mean, his performance was great and all, but obviously, considering events, I doubt the Academy will be nominating him again so soon. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Don't forget the thumbs up button if you enjoyed. Don't forget the subscribe button if you're new. And don't forget to turn on post notifications so you don't miss an upload.